Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. I thought I'd do a live session, just take some of your questions. I've been crazy busy over the last few days, so I haven't had a chance to recap from the end of last last month, as it were. With the lawsuit, etc. There's been some bizarre conversation on Twitter over the last few days, some really sort of strange stuff. And perhaps people would like to talk about that. And of course, DV 2023 will open tomorrow, so people might want to talk about that. One thing I can reliably predict without any doubt whatsoever is tomorrow, when the DV 2023 system opens, it will immediately crash. It just will. And so, people are going to be saying, oh, the government's taken down DV 2023 and panic. Oh, the sky is falling. It will crash. Okay, just get over that. Like if there is no difference entering at the beginning of the entry period or the end of the entry period or any time in between. It makes no difference at all to your selection chances. So just wait a day, right? Don't stress out that it will open tomorrow at noon, and it's not gonna work straight away. So don't stress out about it. Wait a day or two and enter later. It makes no difference to your chances. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, exactly. Somebody who has been through this, Els, I'm sure. Yep. So anyway, so that's where you go, and you go on to there's only one place you need to go. Anyone entering DV 2023, you don't need to pay anyone to do that. You go to dvprogram.state.gov. That's the only website you should be entering. You should only enter your case for yourself and your family, etc. Don't use agents. Don't pay someone to do this for you. Don't give anybody else your private information. Because what happens every single year, I guarantee it, people will be contacting me next May and June saying, oh, I used this agent, they entered for me, but they kept the details. They now have told me that I've won, but they want another $5,000 to get my details, my winning details. Don't do that to yourself, right? If you give someone your personal data and they want to blackmail you later, that is your fault, right? Because you're not listening to me now. So don't do that. There's no need. You can go to an internet cafe. You can keep your data secure and private. And when you get that confirmation number, only you should have that confirmation number. Email it to yourself, keep it in some way, take a picture of it, whatever you have to do. But don't give your information to anybody else, because you open yourself up to blackmail. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. So the DV 2021 case, we've achieved this allocation, the reservation of visas. It's not enough for everybody. It's only 30% of the plaintiffs. It doesn't cover non-plaintiffs at all. I don't think we're going to find any way of covering non-plaintiffs now, other than the Meng amendments that may come in the reconciliation bill or later. I think for non-plaintiffs that were not on a lawsuit, I think that you're probably not going to be able to get any help now. I think the time is gone, and I'm frustrated that more people didn't necessarily sort of get involved with the plaintiffs with the lawsuits, but there it is. And so also the math that the judge has used to come up with this number of allocated reserved visas, the math is wrong. There's no doubt about it. It's unfair. There's no doubt about that. But sometimes things happen and they're wrong and unfair, and that's just how life is, right? So the lawyers will have the ability to make a decision. So the government lawyers could appeal, and the government lawyers are not at all happy about this, right? They are trying to battle this, continually battle, even questioning a few days before the end of the month. They questioned Judge Mehta's authority to make the sort of decisions that he was about to make, and that he did make. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the government appeals. Our lawyers, the plaintiff's lawyers, could technically appeal, but in doing so, it's sort of, anytime there's an appeal, you don't know how that appeal is going to finish, right? So it would be a gamble. It would be a gamble to try and get more visas reserved, but they could lose all the visas, right? So they really have to be very, very careful, and it's certainly not up to me. And it's not up to any individual plaintiff either. It doesn't, the lawyers have got to make this decision based on their skills, their knowledge, their understanding of the law, etc., as to whether they want to challenge some part of the reservation order. But it would be a risky thing. So for this question, you're a 2021 plaintiff, you're not DQ, have you any chances? You have to let me know whether you're go or good luck plaintiff for me to properly answer that, but I'm just going to sort of talk through it this way. I know that in go, there are more visas reserved than there are DQ'd plaintiffs, okay? So there are a few, visas that could go to non-DQ'd plaintiffs. It's possible, right? They will go to the 481, but I don't know how that's going to be organized. I don't know how nobody knows at this point how this process will play out. And it's also important to understand that the Go lawsuit was at final judgment stage, when we got the final order, and they've got their final order. And so there will be a delay before any Go visas are processed, probably a month or so, maybe about that. But for good luck, there's going to be a long delay. It's going to be March or April of next year before anything happens, right? So, you've got to understand, and I'm sure Curtis has probably made his clients aware, it's going to be a long time of waiting. And DV 2020 people will tell you the waiting is very, very hard because you've just got to wait. You're not going to hear any information. You've just got to wait. And people ask about DV 2020. Why isn't Judge Mehta doing this? Why isn't he, fixing that? Well, the perspective of Judge Mehta is you're not in danger right now. He's got you safe. You're saved. He's saved 9,095 visas. Those are safe. To him, it doesn't matter whether he forces the government to issue them next week or in a month's time. It makes no difference. It makes no difference to you. So I understand that you're impatient, and I fully understand how that must feel. And DV 2021, especially good luck plaintiffs, are going to learn how that feels. It's not fun. I know that. But your cases have not been a priority because in DV 2020, because they've been focused on DV 2021. And those cases, we were doing all we could to get those cases through at the end of the month, right? And so that was the priority. And the same thing happened with DV 2020 last year. So you've got DV 2020, you have to continue to wait. I don't expect Judge Mehta to delay many more weeks. I think we'll probably get a final judgment from Judge Mehta pretty soon. But whatever day it is, we just have to wait, right? For DV 2021, as I already said, there's going to be some delay. Okay. Okay, let's just see if I can take a couple of questions and answer some of these questions, right? Which might be better, KSA or Khartoum? I don't know. It depends on your case more than it depends on the embassy, although you think about local conditions, whether embassies are open. But in general, although I do have some data on my website which shows which embassies are sort of more lenient than others, you don't really get to choose your case in that way based on which is a good embassy and which is not a good embassy, particularly at the moment. At the moment, if you're DV 2022, you just be lucky, just be thankful you get an interview if you get an interview, and you won't get an interview in October, probably not in November, and maybe not in December, no matter how low your case number is. Okay. Will DV 2022 run smoothly? No, it won't. Of course it bloody won't. And there was this big sort of, argument over the last few days on Twitter about some people, including people I respect and admire very much, such as the Save Diversity Visa site, saying no more lawsuits for DV 2022. And, we should be able to get all this without lawsuits. Well, frankly, that's naive. Okay. DV 2022 is already in trouble. There are no visa interviews set up in October. And although there was rumor about one case that was set up for interview on October 3rd, but I think that was bullshit, frankly. There's another rumor about a case that's allegedly set up for November 3rd. That may be true. I haven't seen the documentation on that. But there's not some flood of interviews set up. And so we're losing at least the first couple of months of interview capability. We also have the Tier 4 prioritization scheme in place for DV 2022. It was removed by Judge Mehta for DV 2021, but not for DV 2022. So yeah, DV 2022 is already in trouble. And it's likely, therefore, that we need either a change of policy or there will need to be lawsuits later on. And you don't have to participate in a lawsuit. Many people are now saying, well, I paid all this money and I didn't get anything, and we've only got 1/3 of the visas reserved. Yeah, being on a lawsuit is not a guarantee. If you want a guarantee, go buy a fridge, because that's how you get a guarantee. Being on a lawsuit is not a guarantee, right? So you need to be a bit adult about it and realize that when you get into a lawsuit, you're not being promised priority. You're not being promised a successful outcome. Nobody has promised you that, okay? But if you get into a lawsuit, it's because your chances are going to disappear otherwise. And this is the only way to maybe save your chance, right? And so the fact that some people, about 8,000 people, will have visas reserved for them through the Good Luck, the Go, and the Rye cases, and a couple of thousand people were processed additional in September. All of that is positive. There's about 10,000 extra visas that came from the lawsuits. Okay, that's 10,000 positive stories. Unfortunately, there's 30-something thousand people that will miss out. Right, I'm perfectly aware of that. Maybe not quite 30,000, but 25,000. They'll miss out. Okay, visas will be wasted, and the only chance to get those visas back is through something called the Meng Amendment, the legislation changes that hopefully will become law. But lawsuits are your last resort. Okay, it's not the first thing you do, and we don't want people filing lawsuits right now. So people that are saying, I want to file a lawsuit in DV 2022, you're nuts. You can't do that yet. You have to wait until you've actually been harmed. And whilst we know that the harm is likely at this point, and so we should prepare for lawsuits, we should not be filing lawsuits at this point, because that would be unwise and unlikely to fail. Okay, so will it run smoothly? No, it won't. One last thing I want to address. I've been accused a number of times by a number of different people, morons mainly, most of them are idiots, but people accusing me of being somehow benefiting from the lawsuits. And let me just make clear, I have never asked for or been promised or received any money from any of the lawyers for any of the lawsuits, ever. Okay, that's not how I make a living. That's not my interest. I work for a living. I do this because I was a previous recipient. I was a derivative of a DV lottery case. I learnt about it, and for 8 years now, I've been helping people as much as I can, because I feel it's the right thing to do, not because I'm getting paid, etc. And I don't criticize the lawyers for earning a living. And I'm doing this for free, right? But I'm not suggesting everybody needs to work for free. Okay, so you probably go to your jobs and you expect to be paid. Lawyers are the same. They go to their jobs and they expect to be paid. I'm not being paid from these lawsuits, and I resent and I'm angered by any suggestions that I've done that, because I haven't done that, right? And so if you think that's what I've done, well, screw you, and you're a moron. Okay, so that's not true. And you think I've been planning this for 8 years? and I've been doing all this work in the background for 8 years simply so I could cash in when there's a lawsuit. I mean, come on, you're grown up, act like it. Be sensible. Some people are saying that you are grabbing clients to lawyers. There you go. exactly the sort of comment. I mean, morons are saying that. So they think I've been working for 8 years in the background as, to be ready for this point, I mean, come on, people are so stupid. Okay, so any news about the lawsuit? I'm a winner of 2021. Okay, so I think I just covered that. If you're a plaintiff, there's one story. If you're a non-plaintiff, there's a different story. Non-plaintiffs don't have anyone representing them. Curtis Morrison, as we know, removed the class action a couple of weeks before the end of the month. And so there was no class action. That meant there was nobody who was representing non-plaintiffs. He did that because he felt it was the right thing for his paying clients. That was his right to do that. Whether I agree or not, it's another question. I'm saddened that we don't have more people protected, I have to say. But the math that was worked out by the judge wasn't good. It was unfortunate. And whilst I've got massive respect for what Judge Mehta is doing, because he's protecting people, other judges are not. You may not understand. Other cases have been thrown out of court, and very similar arguments being made in other smaller cases. So the fact that Judge Mehta is doing something, he is showing courage and intelligence on his part. Now, there shouldn't be any criticism of Judge Mehta's overall interest. We can criticize his math, absolutely, but let's not pretend like little children that he's not being just or he's not being fair. He's doing what he thinks is fair. Please, let's be adult about that too. Moni says, KCC sent me an email. The documents in DS-260 are complete and we'll wait for 2NL. How long will it take? It'll take as long as your case number says, right? So if you've got a high case number, even though you're ready to be scheduled, you won't be scheduled until your case number is current. And even then, let's say you had case number Africa number 1, right? The first people, and you're ready for scheduling, okay? It would then depend on whether your embassy is open or not, right? So, and if it is open, how much capacity they have, bearing in mind the tier 4 prioritization for DV cases, right? So, Moni, tell me your case number. I can give you a better answer. Pictures requirement, your main lookup. The pictures, I've got several videos in my back catalog. If you go under my YouTube account and you say, look at the fact FAQ in there, you'll find several examples of videos where I've explained the instructions about photos. I've even shown how you can take a photo with a phone. I've done a bunch of stuff on helping with the entry. So go and have a look at those things, and I'll try and refresh those over the next few days. But I'm just very, very busy at the moment, so I'm not getting a lot of chance to do things. So hey Sam, I managed to get DV 2022, confirm your DS60. You haven't got an email from them yet. Okay. Raymond, you have to give me a little bit more information for me to answer. But I would say if you haven't been asked to send in your documents, send your documents anyway. Google my name, Britt Simon, right? Google this, Britt Simon document procedure modification, right? And you'll find an article where I've given all the instructions on how to submit your documents. So go ahead and submit your documents, whether they've asked for them or not. It's a good thing to do. Okay. Case number 2021, EU 4000. Can I have a chance to be interviewed? I'm not a plaintiff. No, you can't. It's over. The only way that any cases will now progress is if the legislation changes that are going through the reconciliation bill or the Meng Amendment, whether those make it into law. But that's by no means certain. But there is no protection from any of the lawsuits. And every year It's very normal. Every year, September 30th, that's the end of the program. If you don't get your visa through by then, that's it. You've lost your chance. It's incredibly cruel this year and DV 2020, since they were affected by COVID and by Trump's proclamations and so on. But it's the same every year, and it has been the same for 25 years, right? Every year, the process ends on September 30th. So unfortunately, if you're not a plaintiff, then you've probably lost your chance. And the only way that will change is through the legislation. Okay. Can a photo editing tool steal my picture and submit an entry which may disqualify your application due to doubling? No, that can't happen. But if I were you, I would use I would use a sort of a non DV tool, or the official DV tool. Just if you're worried about that, you can go and use the official tool that's available through the government website. If you read the diversity visa instructions, the entry instructions, it guides you to a tool which you can use to crop your photo that you've taken on a phone or something like that, and you don't have to worry about the government stealing your own photo, right? So be careful about that. You're right to ask, but no, let's not invent bogeymen. Nothing's going to steal your photo. Submit DS216 2022 EU 10,000. Can I just email the documents already? Yes, you can. Should I always use the email that I used when I originally applied for DV lottery? No, you don't have to use that original email. You can send your documents from another email address, and you can also write to KCC from another email address. You don't have to. It's not like they only respond to the email address that you entered with. They'll respond to you as long as you give them the right information. They'll respond to you on from any email address. I've written to KCC on behalf of other people from my email address. Doesn't even have to be your email address. Do you see what I mean? So there you go. When will DV 2022 interviews begin? I think we may see a few interviews in November. There should have been some in October. I believe there are none. We might see some in November, and I'm hopeful we'll see some in December. But understand that we're now in October. The normal sort of course of events, other than the last few months, which has been different in DV 2021, is that in October, interviews for December would be set, right? So it's unlikely that in October we'll be setting interviews for November. They would already be set. So the most likely thing is that we'll start to see a few interviews happening in December. But again, we're still under prioritization, putting us at level 4, meaning we're at a low priority. Every other visa type, non-immigrant visa type, are above us. And so, we're in trouble for that reason, right? So there'll be some in December, I think. Under the name of the court certificate. Sorry, let me read this again. AS 22, what's that, 2000. Sent the documents without being asked. I named the police certificate under the name of the court certificate. I see. What should I do? If you need Mohammed to correct the documents that you sent, rename them however is accurate, and resend the whole package with the correct subject line. The subject line would be, would be the case number, the full case number, including the leading zeros, right? So 2022 AS 2000, 0002000, whatever that is, that should be the subject line. Only the case number, nothing else. Okay. Winner of 2020 will apply again. Well, good luck, Hassan. I hope some of the people that missed out before now have a chance. But you also, maybe you'll be able to get one of the 9,095. Anybody can apply, by the way, for DV 2023. It doesn't matter if you're a DV 2020 winner, 2021, 2022. It doesn't matter. Anybody can apply, right? So go ahead and apply. That it's best to apply, see if you win, and then talk to me about whatever issues you have, right? Yeah, Raymond, I already answered. Yes, you should send documents. Buffnight, yeah, I've already answered that. I really want to get my picture right, says Frederick, then go and have a look at that video I mentioned. Seems KCC is too slow on my CN. SA 480 submitted May 26. Documents proactive and not news from them. Yeah, okay. So depending on your case and how many people are in there, it might have taken longer to process your DS260 than some other cases. Don't worry, you know, just be a little bit patient and see how that goes, right? I'm assuming that it says completed, the word completed on your DS260. That's the first thing. And then if you sent your documents, make sure you sent the right documents, okay? Just check them against that, that guide that I have, which is the Brit Simon document procedure modification document I mentioned, okay? Do I know how long it takes to get a fingerprint appointment? Wow. Had your fingerprints taken on the 28th of September. Why, oh no. Adjustment of status, you have to wait until your case number is current, or at least has been announced in the visa bulletin, and you shouldn't file prior to October 1st, right? There is an early filing policy, but you should not file before the beginning of the year. If you filed too early, they could reject your case. I don't know what you did on the 28th of September. Don't really understand that. After fingerprint appointment. You see, you've already had a fingerprint appointment for DV 2022. Seems weird. You shouldn't have had. Seems weird. As to how long it will take, I don't know. Okay. You have to be patient, especially with the adjustment of status process. But yeah, it's weird that you did that on the 28th of September. That they almost always reject cases filed prior to 1st of October. So I hope that's going to be okay. KCC sent me an email that documents DS60. Yeah, okay. So that's fine. So EU 13,000 isn't going to be current for a while. It'll probably be, you know, January or February of next year, let's say, before your case number is ready to be interviewed. So patience for now is all I can say there. Bufnar, please stop repeating this question. I've already answered it. Did anyone get DQ for DV 2022? Yes, absolutely. Even people on this chat here are saying that they've been DQ'd for DV 2022. Send the bloody document, says Prince. Yeah, absolutely. If DV, okay, this is an interesting question. If DV 2021 will affect 2022, how are my chances of getting interviewed? Well, DV 2021 has a higher priority than DV 2022, but there's going to be no good luck cases scheduled until April or May of next year. There'll be some go cases scheduled, but only 481, which is nothing. They can do that in a day or two, right? So there's not really a huge impact of DV 2021 on DV 2022. But your case number, AF 31,000, you're not going to be current until probably May of next year, something like that, right? So don't worry about the time right now. You just need to be a bit patient. It's going to be a while. This is not a quick process for most people, okay? Okay, just running through more questions. Here's a question, 2022, case number 6,000, but you don't mention your region. Submitted a DS260 and you wanted to add your newborn baby or baby and sent me email to KCC for unlocking, but it's still not responded. You waited more than a month. What should you do? Okay, so just wait a bit longer. You don't mention which region you're in, so I don't know whether you're delayed or not yet. But the thing is, there's almost a year to go in this process. So the fact you're delayed a few weeks, so what? Just wait, okay? Now, I will say that the backlog at KCC will have dramatically reduced because they were able to clear out a lot of emails that were DV 2021 questions. So a lot of people reported receiving an email from from KCC that says something like, you know, you're asking about a previous year which is now closed, either DV 2020 or DV 2021, right? And it takes KCC almost no time to send that email, whereas the questions that were being asked were taking a lot longer. So they've managed to send out that sort of standard annoying email to a lot of people in DV 2021. That's annoying to the people in DV 2021 for sure, but it's reducing the backlog for people in DV 2022. So someone such as yourself that sent in an email a month ago, you should get an answer pretty soon now, because there's less of a backlog. So, you know, fingers crossed for that. Okay. Hi, so I've got married after winning and want to add my wife. Is there any problem with me in the interview? And if no, I sent a request to unlock my DS. I've got DR before DS unlock. Adding her. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you get married after winning, as soon as you can, you should unlock your DS260. You modify your own DS260 to now update the fact that you're married and your status has changed from single to married. And you need to also add a DS260 for your spouse. You can do all of that without risk. As long as your marriage is genuine, no problem. You'll be, both of you will be processed. You can both go through the interview process yourself. People seem to think it's better to lie to the government and pretend that they didn't get married or some stupidity. It isn't better to lie to the government. You should always be honest in this process, okay? And so if you got married, then tell the government you got married, right? And your spouse will be added onto your case, okay? Right, let's just do some more. I'm from an ineligible country and my spouse is from an eligible country. Do you both submit a total of 2 entries or 1? Good question, Mohammed. You both can submit. With your spouse will enter for herself and listing you as a derivative, as a husband. And that will be charged to her own country, right? Her country of birth will be, this question 5 is the country of birth, and that will be the eligible country. For you, you'll go through the same process. You must list your country of birth in question 5 as the actual country of birth. But in question 6, that's about chargeability, and you'll refer to your wife's country of birth as being your eligibility country. You put a little note in there. It'll come up with a pop-up saying, you know, to explain why. And you'll put, you know, spouse's country eligible or something like that, anything like that, right? It doesn't really matter what you write in there. If you're selected, so you have two separate entries. If you're selected, both you and her need to meet the requirements, right? The education requirements and that sort of thing. If she's selected, then only she needs to meet the requirements. If you're selected, not only do you need to meet the requirements, both of you, but you'll both need to enter the country at the same time, you know, when you actually come to enter the USA later on. Okay, so there's a little bit more complication to it, but you still are entitled to have 2 entries. It's really cool. Actually, that's how I entered that way. So when we were selected back in DV 2014, my wife entered. She was from Spain. My country was ineligible. The UK is ineligible. And so I also did an entry for myself. In the end, she won, not me. So I just came as a derivative, but we both entered. Okay. Brit, DV 2022 winner, sent you DS 260 in June, receiving information, not being dequeued. Any email, blah, blah, blah. Is it normal? Yeah, it's normal. This process takes time. Right, so don't panic if it takes a bit of time for you. It's just, it is normal. Nepal. Warm greetings from Nepal. Is there anything wrong if we send the original as well as the notarized copies of each documents while submitting documents to KCC? No problem with that. You should actually, I mean, obviously you don't send by mail anything to KCC. You're just scanning it, right? But yeah, you can use the original, and you don't really need notarized copies, but you might need translations of some documents depending on your situation. Notarized copies is really something you take to the interview. So, you know, when you're sending the documents, you want the original of your document, you scan that, and then you may need a translation. Okay, so you can add that as well if you need it. Okay. This is a great question, Albert. Can you tell KCC not to unlock under unlock request? Unfortunately, they go through an inbox sort of top to bottom. They start at the top, and at the top of the inbox will be your email that says unlock, and they'll go ahead and they'll say, okay, we'll unlock, and they'll unlock it, and then 1,000 emails later, they'll read another email from you saying don't unlock. But of course, they've already done it by that time. So you can email them a second time saying don't unlock, but it won't do any good. They'll unlock anyway. Okay. They're not gonna look at the first email and search, oh, has Albert sent me another email, just in case. They're not going to do that. Use a little bit of common sense. That's how they work. This is a great question. Mohammed is asking here, how can we salute, I think you mean solves, the priority system? Okay, so I have contacted Ayla about this. I've through an email yesterday, day before yesterday, I contacted Jesse Bless to see if there was any way that we could sort of deal with this prioritization thing. The reason I did that was because I would much rather the government take out the priority scheme early in the year, which would give us a more normal DV 2022, than sue them later, right? The lawyers would love to sue. They'll sue again quite happily. They keep winning these cases. Curtis and Raphael, or Chuck Cook, Aaron Hall, Jeff Siskind, Jeffrey, I've forgotten Jeffrey's name. How stupid. But anyway, Jeffrey, so the two groups of lawyers, they are the two successful groups of lawyers that have managed to successfully sue the government several times. They will both quite happily sue the government again later on this year, right? Next year, actually, for DV 2022. They'll both do it. But I would rather we didn't have to get into that position. So I contacted Ayla, the director of litigation there, who's Jesse Bless, and said, is there any way you can use your influence, your back channel contacts, contact the government and say to them, look, this is better for everyone. If you would just stop this stupidity of this prioritization scheme, you're going to get sued if you don't issue all the visas because of the prioritization scheme that Judge Mehta has already agreed with is capricious and arbitrary. You're going to get sued again, and you're going to lose again, and you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting against Curtis and Raphael or Chuck and co. They're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're going to lose again, right? It would be much better for us to just resolve this early on by removing that prioritization scheme. So I got a response back from Jesse saying, yeah, they are continuing to work. They've never stopped working. They were involved in DV 2020. They've been working in the background to try and get a little bit of common sense through to the government. It's not always going to work, but they are trying, and they're going to continue to try right now. So no commitments have been made. There is no commitment from Ayla that they will take up a lawsuit or do anything like that. What we're talking about is a back channel conversation, right? To try and get the government to see some sense and hopefully avoid more lawsuits later. But if they don't work correctly, then we'll have more lawsuits, and some of you will want to participate and some of you won't, and that's life. Just like some people didn't participate in the DV 2021 cases, and they chose not to do that, and then now obviously their time has run out. Okay, so you'll have the same choice. Everybody can choose again next time, right? I hate these ones. I'm a selectee in DV 2021. I missed my appointment date of July. Do I still stand a chance to reschedule? No, you don't. I hate these ones because this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity that I mean, I don't know whether you were run over by a truck or whether you were having a baby or what the hell was going on July the 8th. But how you can wait until October to talk about something that you missed an appointment in July? I mean, I don't understand what's going on with you. Other people would have killed for that appointment. So I'm very sad that you didn't think it was important enough to get to that appointment, but there's no way to reschedule it now. So I'm a DV 2022 winner. Is it a good chance of having an interview if I got DQ from KCC this week? It depends on your case number, first and foremost. It depends on your embassy, right? So it depends on those things. But the fact that you're DQ'd is a good thing. But you might have a high case number, right? I don't know. So, you know, the fact that you've got DQ'd doesn't mean that they can ignore your case number. It also doesn't mean that they can force an embassy that is closed to hold an interview for you. So you have to let me know a little bit more information, or just, you know, be patient. 2022 AF 58,000 from Tunisia. So that's a high case number. I hope you realize that means you're going to wait for a year, etc. So KCC emailed 2 times to send the documents. Is that normal? That's okay. Doesn't make any difference. But yeah, send in your documents. Even though you've got to wait a long time, it would be wise to send in your documents early. Has gone, you submitted DS260 at the end of July. Some received an email for documents. If DV 2021 goes not smooth, it won't go smooth. Is your case in danger of not being processed? Yeah, of course it is. Of course it's in danger. All cases are in danger until your visa is in your hands, right? There's no guarantees here. There's no cases that are guaranteed. So yeah, you need to send your documents. I've told everybody, send your documents already. Okay, so go Google. Let me Google it for you now. Brit Simon document procedure modification. It comes up in my recently searched. Obviously, I'm putting this in the chat now. This is the instructions that you can follow to send your documents. But you know, go ahead and send your documents. You don't have to wait for KCC to send a request to, you know, for documents. Okay. Do you think Republicans are on our way or on our side? I don't know. Republicans, I don't know what they're thinking. They just don't seem to understand they need to get out of the way. But, you know, I don't know. We'll see. Republicans are not being helpful. Republicans are not your friend. And, you know, they don't want immigration, even though immigration drives the economy of this country. It's an important part of the economy of this country and the growth of this country. And the culture of this country. There's lots of good reasons why immigration should be supported. Some people don't understand that. Many of those people are Republicans. So Milan is asking about DV 2020. What's the status? So we're just waiting for the final order from Judge Mehta. Judge Mehta has told everybody what he's going to do. He asked the government to, and what he's going to do is force the government to issue the 9,095 visas. He asked the government to come back with a reasonable plan and talk to the plaintiff's lawyers to try and come up with dates, basically a plan of when these visas could be issued. And the government basically came back with a bunch of stupid nonsense. And did not, you know, not in a helpful way at all. So unfortunately, that means it has to be Judge Mehta who's got to try and figure out what would be a sensible way to process these cases. It's unfortunate. You know, if the government lawyers had just been a little bit more grown up and responsible about it, it would have been better. But as it is, we have to wait for Judge Mehta to now, you know, make that decision and push forward and announce his decision. Now, Judge Mehta, you may not know, but he's a very important judge in this country. He's a federal judge, a pretty senior one. And he's got a lot of very important cases in front of him, including some of the people that, some of the traitors that behaved so wrongly on January 6th. And so, he's busy on lots of cases, and he's been focused on DV 2021 in some of his time. And so, unsurprisingly, he's not, rushed for the DV 2022, 2020 final order. But I do expect, sometime over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks. I'm guessing. I've got no reason to say that. I've got no inside knowledge or anything else like that. But I'd be surprised if we were waiting much longer than 2 or 3 weeks for that final order, because I think he's got all the information he needs now to make that decision. Okay. You write to KCC to unlock and they're not doing so. What should you do? You have to wait. Just be patient. Can an overstay register for DV? Depends how long you overstayed. If you overstayed up to less than 1 year, you've got no problems. I think it's less than 6 months. But up to 3 over I forget what the rules are now, but I think it's over 6 months or over a year or something, you can get a 3-year ban. And if you stay longer than that, it can be a 10-year ban. Those bans can be a problem for DV lottery. So you can't stay in the country and abuse the immigration laws of the country and expect the next moment to get a gift from the country in terms of immigration. It just doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. You can't punch someone in the face and then they give you a few dollars for a nice drink and a cup of coffee. People are not like that. The law is not like that. This country is not like that. You have to get the hell out, right? And you have to abide by the rules. If you haven't done that, then really DV lottery is not for you, because you don't seem to understand, how to abide by the rules, right? That's what I can say. It's a bit harsh, but there you go. There's plenty of people that follow the rules. They obviously have a better chance. Okay. Godfather of DV winners. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you, MK Songs, I should say. What is going on with DV 2021? I didn't get my interview. DV 2021 ended, Adriana. As it does every year on September 30th. Some people were protected by the lawsuits, and those cases will be continuing over the next few months. But if you weren't on a lawsuit, then pretty much it's over for you. Your only remaining hope is the Meng Amendment and the legislation that's going through the government at the moment, but isn't law yet. Okay, let's answer this one. KCC asked to include a passport given an initial entry with written explanation for the change. How to do it? Handwritten on old passport, computerized with my signature. Okay, so they need an explanation from you. That's like a letter. So you need to show them the old passport, the new passport, and an explanation, sort of a few words written down on a document or on a piece of paper that you then scan, explaining that you renewed your passport because the old passport expired after the entry, right? So very simple. There's no magic to it. There's no special way to do it. You don't need a standard template letter or anything else like that. Just a little bit of common sense. They'll understand. Okay. You've been trying for 7 years. Nothing positive. It may be something with your entry process, but understand that most people, other than the Oceania region, which has a higher chance of entry than other regions, most people have, at best, 1 in 100 years chance of being selected. Think about that. 1 chance in every 100 years. In Africa, it's closer to 1 chance in every 200 years, right? So the fact that you've been trying 7 years and you haven't been selected is not really that surprising. Most people never get selected. This is not a plan for immigrating. It's a lottery, and not everybody succeeds. So keep trying, make sure you follow the instructions, but it's probably not something you're doing wrong. It's probably just, you haven't had the good luck to be selected yet. That's normal. You didn't complete high school, but you completed a vocational study as a network engineer. Do I qualify for the lottery? On education, probably not. However, if you are now or have continued to work as a network engineer, and if you've been doing that work for at least 2 years within the last 5 years, that may be enough to qualify you. So I'll put something in the chat here. Britt Simon, work experience. So on my blog, I have an explanation of how you check. In fact, I've got a video here. I have an explanation of how you check whether you're able to get qualified through your work experience. So watch this video that I'm just putting into the chat now. Also go to the blog. I believe there's a link in the description below that will take you to my blog that explains that, and you can figure out whether your work experience is good enough to qualify. But I would say, it sounds like you're wondering whether you should enter the lottery. Everybody should enter. There's no harm in entering. There's no rule that says you have to be qualified in order to enter. But if you're selected, then you have to prove that you're qualified, right? So you go ahead and enter. There's no harm in that. Okay. So Youve says, you got a choice between Paris, France, and Casablanca, Morocco to schedule my interview. You probably don't have the choice you think, because it's based on where you live generally. But anyway, let's continue. Case number is AF38K, which is the best location regarding the chance to have an interview, in your opinion. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. Your case number is AF38K. So your case isn't going to be current until well into next year, right? May, June, July, something like that, right? Because of your case number. So today, there could be conditions going on in France or in Morocco at the embassies, which will be totally different by the time we get to next year. So it's impossible for me to say what's the best embassy in, let's say, June or July of next year. I don't know, right? Now, if you're Moroccan, you may find that the Casablanca embassy is slightly more used to dealing with your documents than the French embassy. You may also find that the French embassy perhaps is a little bit more aggressive towards foreign people in France, right? Because there's a little bit of that sort of feeling. So there might be some benefits of being interviewed in Morocco if you're Moroccan, mostly about the documents. That's not to say, though, that I haven't known plenty of Moroccans get qualified and approved in Paris. It happens. But, other than that, is Morocco and Casablanca, is that going to be in good shape with COVID next year? I don't know, right? So I can't guess that bit of it. But generally speaking, it's based on where you live anyway. It's not based on what you choose. It's based on that. This cracks me up, this question, Omar. So according to submitting DS, so there's this, I keep explaining to people how this process works. I've explained it, I don't know how many times. And the processing of documents is most definitely based on case number order, but the documents processing only generally should start once the DS-260 is processed. The DS-260s are also processed in case number order, but in both cases, for documents and DS-260s, if there is very few cases that happen to be in the backlog at this moment in time, then a KCC worker might actually process a high number case, right? So to an extent, there is some advantage of submitting your DS-260 early. It can mean that your case number becomes ready for document processing early, right? But there is also a difference in processing speed between DS-260s, like between two cases. If I'm a single guy, I grew up in Germany, I've never really traveled anywhere else. I've got a very straightforward history in terms of job and education and everything else. My DS-260 is going to be faster than this other case where this is a family of 5 people. That 2 of the kids are adults. Somebody's a rocket scientist. The other person is doing, biological warfare. They've traveled through Iran, Iraq, and the Middle East extensively. That case is obviously going to be harder to qualify than the first case from Germany. You get that, right? There's a difference there because there's more people, there's more worrying travel history, there's more worrying work history. And let's just throw in and say the applicant is called Osama bin Laden, right? Because there's also a name connection. Can you, I'm being a bit extreme, obviously, but I'm trying to point out that no 2 DS-260s will be processed at the same time. So the idea that they're only working in strict DS-260 submission date order is ridiculous. That's what I'm trying to say to you. That's not true. We also know, based on their declarations, which are sworn declarations, we know how they're working based, for the document procedure, etc. We know all this. I know all this. I've explained it to people, but I still get people who've got their own little spreadsheet and they've determined that they know what's really going on. You don't, right? I'm sorry to be so blunt. It's just that you're seeing a little bit of evidence without having the full picture, and you don't understand the difference between what you're seeing and the logical explanation that I've given. Okay, that's all it is. And bear in mind, I've been doing this 8 years, right? So anyway, I think you're probably getting the point. DB 2022 submitted DS60 in June 7th, case number 25K for Algeria. Reopened my DS in September and closed. Do I have a chance? Right, lots of extraneous information I didn't need. But do you have a chance? I don't know. I can't predict. I'm not predicting. I don't want to predict people's chances. I don't really want to predict people's dates of interviews and that sort of thing, because we don't really know what's going to happen. And so I'll tell you roughly based on past history how your case number should be. But that doesn't mean that it's a certainty that you'll be interviewed in whatever month I say, because we really don't know what's going to happen in this processing. We don't know whether the tier 4 prioritization is going to be taken off, or whether embassies will stay open, whether they'll have to be closed because of COVID. There's so much we don't know, right? So I don't want to give anyone the impression that I can predict the future accurately. I can't. And if I can't, you can't. I promise you. Nobody can. Okay. Darren, OC23XX, currently in Mexico, as your wife is a permanent resident. Permanent resident of Mexico or permanent resident of the USA? I sent the DS260 July 14th, then we went to LA for 2 weeks at the end of August. Should I reopen my DS260 to add this trip? No. Your DS260 needs to be accurate on the day you submit it. You don't have to reopen it because you changed jobs, you changed address, you had another trip into the USA or some other country. You don't have to reopen it for those reasons. If you reopen it for some other reasons to correct an actual factual mistake in there, like you've got a spelling of your name wrong or something like that, at that time you would also correct your travel history, but you don't reopen it for the travel history change, right? Don't need to. And frankly, for America anyway, they know you entered. Anyone can find out you entered. They don't need to know that information anyway. Okay, it's not considered lying. It just means that your DS260 was accurate on the day you submitted it. Okay, that's how that works, Darren. Good luck, plaintiff. Do you think the State Department will distribute visas based on continent quota? That's a good question. What are the chances to get visas for embassies that have a low number of plaintiffs? Good questions, both of those. We don't know is the honest answer. We don't know whether they're going to respect the overall quotas, and if they do, there's various ways they could do that. They could take the existing to-date information. See, South America got very close to its global quota anyway, right? It actually borrowed quota from other countries, from other regions, which they're allowed to do. I've explained that in the past years ago, how regions can borrow quota from other regions based on certain rules. There are certain rules that control that. And so, in this year, South America actually went over their normal quota already, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't get any visas from any, good luck cases or anything else like that. And there's various ways that they could control that. But for me to try and predict that ahead of the time, I don't know. I don't think Judge Mehta is going to specify any of that. I don't think Judge Mehta and very few people, and probably the lawyers, probably don't even know that. So not the plaintiff lawyers, not the defendant, certainly not the defendant's lawyers. They're useless. But I don't think the plaintiff lawyers even understand the rules of country, the country allocations, etc., or the regional allocations. It's a very obscure part of the law. So I don't think anybody is going to suggest that they sort of, try and maintain those quotas. We'll have to see. In terms of your second question, do you have more chances in a smaller embassy? Again, it's a good question, but again, I can't really guess it. We'll have to see how they prioritize the cases, how they decide who is going to get, one of the good luck visas of 6,900 visas, who would be prioritized. Is probably going to be either case number order or more likely date of documentarily qualified order. Probably one of those two things, right? But we'll have to see. Online petition for DV 2021, the Senate can see in a special case. The government are already voting on that. They're already aware of it. What's the point of an online petition? I don't see the point of that. But feel free if you want to do that. But they're already well aware. That's why the Meng Amendment is there. That's why the reconciliation bill has that language in it. I don't understand why. It would be smart if they weren't aware of it, but they are aware of it. So why do that? Submitted EU 4000 not being notified. How long should you wait? Just wait for a few more weeks. I mean, there's not much you can do except waiting. So just keep patient. It's 1st of September. Still no reply. I would expect you to get that within a few days, right? So Zakaria, next time I'm doing a live, could you let me know if you get that? Malia, how are you? It's been a difficult time, I'm sure, for you and a lot of the people. I know you've been supporting people in your groups, etc. So yes, hello to you. I hope you're doing okay. KCC still processing according to DS submission date. Oh, and you keep arguing about that, and they don't. Can you explain why no numbers still not processed? I did, Fatty. Okay, all right. I've spent more than enough time on that. I don't understand why you don't understand. Sorry about that. I'm 2022 DV winner. Is there a good chance of having an interview if I have DQ? I think you've already. If I have DQ from KCC this week, case number is AF42XXX. Okay, your case number is high enough to be a concern that we never get there. Now, it's not that we're going to run out of quota. It's if we have the tier 4 prioritization that applies all the way through the year, the number of people that can be issued visas will be quite low. And so we may never get there because there's going to be an undershooting. And so, it's a little bit difficult to be able to predict that. So there is some risk. Even though you're already documentarily qualified, you cannot get your visa interview until you're current. So there is some risk for that. Okay. Born in Kuwait, which is an eligible country, but Kuwait have an Indian nationality passport, which is can I apply? Yeah, doesn't matter. Your ability to enter the lottery is based on your country of birth, not your country of citizenship or the passport. You can use your Indian passport to identify yourself, which is the rules of the lottery, but you're going to list your country of birth and you have to be able to prove your country of birth as being Kuwait. So that's how that will work. Okay. When's the final order for good luck, please? I think it's April of next year. It's going to be a long time, right? There's a whole sort of schedule of the timeline for the good luck case to go through its various processes, and I think it'll be April of next year. Possibly May before we have the final order. It's going to be that long. Okay, so get prepared to be waiting. I saw someone with a higher case number in the last live saying that he got the interview date. However, I didn't get an email to send the docs. What does this mean? I don't know what the higher case number said in terms of the interview date. I don't know what year that was. You're not telling me. But if you're DV 2022 and you didn't get an email to send your documents, don't worry about that. Just send your documents. Okay. That's the same for everyone. Same case for everybody. Okay. And depending on your DS-260, when you submitted it, what your nationality is, what your name is, where you've traveled in your life, what job you've done in your life, whether you've been in the military or not, all of those things can affect the processing speed of your DS-260. And they won't send you an email to send your documents until they've processed your DS-260 and done all of the background checks. Okay, so you can send in your documents proactively without being asked. They may later ask you to send your documents in again when they've completed processing your DS-260. But there's no harm in sending in your documents early anyway, right? And there's certain circumstances where it might help you. So go ahead and do that. Okay. As for higher cases getting interviews before that happens, I think you're probably talking about DV 2021 though, because I don't think there are many people in DV 2022 with interviews arranged. Not many at all. Okay. Is there hope for big numbers in DV 2022? I can't tell you, Mido. I don't know what's going to happen in the next year. It's just it's totally up for guessing at the moment. Okay. 2021 DV lottery winner currently based in the USA. Can I apply for an interview based on last court decision? No, you can't. No, not unless you're a plaintiff. And if you are a plaintiff, you would have to be interviewed outside of America. The court decision doesn't cover adjustment of status in the USA. AOS cases ended on September 30th and are not covered. So the lawsuit was against Department of State, which covers consular processing outside of the USA. It was not against USCIS, right? So no, can't do that. Awesome. Suradem, you're a winner of DV 2020 and was able to come to the USA thanks to you. I got congratulations. I'm pleased you're here. I firmly believe that immigration is good for this country. So I love to hear positive stories of people that make it in there. And so, yeah, welcome. I hope there are more people coming, and I hope your story is going to be great. So, make a good life. All right. The photo that we submit while applying for the lottery, to what extent can we edit that image? Don't edit that image. The instructions make very, very clear, don't edit it. It's okay to crop it, but you shouldn't be editing backgrounds out or, taking spots off your face or something like that. Don't edit it, right? If you're ugly, deal with it. If you've got spots all over your face, never mind. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get an interview. But it would be silly to edit the photo contrary to the instructions just because you're ugly. Don't do it, right? And I don't know you're ugly. I'm being silly, right? So yeah, don't edit your photo. Do you think that DV 2020 balance of 9,095 will be issued next year, or what's going on? I don't know. I tend to think that we're going to get. I think, just as a guess, no real reason for saying this, I think we'll probably start seeing those interviews in this year. I'm hoping that we'll have an order from Judge Mehta in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm hoping that they'll try and rush some of those into December interviews. They're running out of time to do that, so maybe it'll be January, February, March, or whatever. But we'll see. But they will be issued, right? There's people who are, again, writing all sorts of negative things on Twitter about we haven't achieved anything, we haven't won anything. We've achieved a hell of a lot through lawsuits. There's 17,000 people who got, so 7,000 people got their interviews in DV 2020 in September. 7,000 people. They were issued visas, and those visas expired almost completely. All of them expired, right? And so we got another order that said those people could enter the country for up to 6 months after that. Those people are, were protected by the lawsuits. That some people don't have, lawsuits haven't done anything. Well, they've done a lot. Then we got 9,095 more visas secured, and they will be issued in DV 2020. In DV 2021, after the 9th of September, there was a lot of activity. It wasn't thousands, but a couple of thousand more people than would have done got their interviews and got processed in DV 2021 because of the lawsuits. And now we've got a reservation of around about 8,000, bit more than 8,000. You've got Good Luck, Go, and the Rye cases. All of that has come from lawsuits. We've had DV 2021 priority of Tier 4 removed for DV 2021. We've had the judge has put in writing that that Tier 4 prioritization should not apply to DV cases. That's huge. That's enormous. We just need the government to actually, stop doing that. There's a ton of stuff we've achieved through the lawsuits. I don't understand the mentality of people who say that we haven't achieved much in the lawsuits. That's a completely ridiculous, position to take. It's obvious that we've achieved things. Nearly 30,000 people, probably over 30,000 people, will have got their visas in the end because of the lawsuits over DV 2020 and DV 2021. In fact, more people will have got their visas because of the lawsuits than would have got their visas other than the lawsuits, right? So we have got more than double the number of visas. It's huge. It's enormous, right? So I'm very grateful to the lawyers that have done that, the AILA teams, the people that work pro bono, Chuck Cook and co, Curtis Morrison and co. They've done an amazing job, right? And again, for those people that want to accuse me, I haven't had a penny from any of those lawyers or any of those cases, and never asked for a penny. I don't want any money. I don't recommend the lawsuits because I'm trying to make money. I recommended the lawsuits because we've saved 30,000 bloody visas. And that's important. And that makes me feel good, right? And I would like to have saved a lot more. I would like the lawsuits to have been more successful. But 30,000 people is not insignificant. That's life-changing for those people. So, so I hope you understand that. Like I said, I'm just amazed by the negativity I read from smart people. I mean, people I highly respect that can't seem to understand that lawsuits have been effective. But oh well. How will they issue visas? And good luck. Will they take people? I don't know. Probably DQ date is my most likely. My most likely scenario is DQ date. Might be case number order. They might take account of regional quotas. We'll have to see. We'll just have to see, right? I really can't guess that. And we're at least 6 months away from that anyway, and good luck. So, excuse me, Tarek, you're a DV 2020 winner and have already had an interview, but you were left on AP at the end. Depending on the reason for your AP to be started in the first place, you might have a chance of the 9,095 visas. You'll have to wait and see. Pay very careful attention over the next few weeks. And so, when we get the approval to start issuing the 9,095, you'll then contact your embassy and you'll start to sort of argue for your own case to be able to get your case through. But you have to wait and see how that works out. Okay, Earth space. You need your 2021, currently in the USA. Based on the last court decision, can I apply for an interview? No, nobody can apply for an interview from DV 2021 right now. I assume you're a plaintiff. If you're not a plaintiff, then the lawsuits haven't helped you. If you are a plaintiff, then you should be listening to the lawyers that represented you, Go lawyers or Good Luck lawyers. If you're a Go case, you can expect within a few weeks there should be some news of when those 481 visas will be issued. If you're a Good Luck plaintiff, it'll be April or May of next year before we hear anything more about when those cases could be processed. So it's a long wait. If you're not a plaintiff of either of those cases, then there is nothing that anyone can do for you. Your case is finished. And as I mentioned before, there is some legislation in process that looks to give back the opportunity of people that were affected by COVID in DV 2020 and 2021, but that is not law yet. Okay, so it might become law, but it's not been passed yet. Okay. Should I unlock my DS260 if I submitted my city of birth as Milan as an English instead of Milano? No, no problem. No problem. They'll understand. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, it's fine, Justin. Is there hope of big numbers for DV 2022? I don't know. Are you, Mido? You're repeating that over and over again. Please stop. Okay, let's see. The lottery is open from tomorrow at noon in America. And what will happen, as I started off this call saying, the minute the lottery opens, the servers will crash. It'll be very difficult to enter. People will get frustrated. I'll predict right now that people will be telling me that Donald Trump has pulled the plug out of the server or whatever. He's pulled the plug out the webpage. All sorts of random conspiracy theories will be put forward tomorrow. But the reality is that too many people will suddenly try and enter the lottery in the first few minutes of the entry period being open. The web servers will be overwhelmed. They'll crash. They'll respond badly. There'll be all sorts of errors. And all of that can be avoided by just waiting 24 or 48 hours until the system is quieter. And there's no advantage to being in the first few hours or being in the last few hours. There's no advantage at all. The draw is completely random. It doesn't matter which day you enter, right? And it doesn't affect which case number you get or anything else like that. It's complete nonsense. So there's no reason to put yourself through all of that aggravation dealing with the web server crapping out and all that. There's no reason. Okay, so just be patient. Wait a couple more days. Okay. Does living in the USA may increase the wait time for DQ when going CP? Potential additional background checks. Living in the US for many years? No, not really. No, the government have access, Max, to all of that information through the FBI database. So the reason they don't need police checks from the USA, even if you're doing consular processing, is because they already have that information. So there's no increase in the time. It's very easy for them to check that information. So no, it wouldn't increase the time at all. That's not a problem. Okay. They can also check the social security databases that show things like, have you been paying tax? And they know from their own databases what visa you've got that means you should or shouldn't be here and should or shouldn't be working, etc. They can do all of that, and none of that affects the processing speed. It's all just, it's automatically available to them. Okay. Change the current address from a country to another, plus occupation and host address. Good reasons. Okay, so you've got a number of changes to make in the DS260. You've got to change the current address from a country to another country, plus occupation and host address are good reasons. Yeah, the combination of all of those things, and particularly the change from one country to another, that's probably reason to unlock your DS260. That's a significant change, right? You've moved from country A to country B. That's a big enough deal. And while you're in there making that change, you should update the other things, right? So that's fine. Oh, this would be good news if this is true. Sydney is finally looking to come out of lockdown. Have you heard when the embassy might be running again? I hadn't heard that it was that sure that the lockdown is ending. I heard there was going to be some sort of scaled lockdown, but Sydney embassy is closed because of the lockdown. So when the lockdown is removed, if everything else returns to normal, for example, they look at things like, are sports events happening in the country? Are people able to go and see a concert? Are they able to go shopping freely? Those things being stopped are aspects of a lockdown. So as long as all of those things go back to normal, then Sydney embassy should reopen. But they are not controlled by the Australian government. They're controlled by the US government, right? So, and they can make their own decision locally. So they will hopefully reopen, but I can't say that they will reopen the next day after the lockdown ends. It's going to be up to them, okay? I didn't answer your first question, which is fine. Here's another. That's brilliant. Kesley Kes, a little bit of attitude there from Kesley. I didn't answer the first question, which is fine. I don't know what your first question was. When applying for DV 2023, my newborn baby doesn't have a passport yet. Is this a problem? Because as much as I know, all the applicants should have a passport. So you haven't read the instructions, obviously, Kesley. Only the main applicant needs to enter their passport number. So if you are applying and you're married, let's say, you can enter your spouse's application and any children you've got. You don't need to provide the passport for your spouse and for your children. Now, if your spouse enters as well, he needs his passport and will enter that. But again, he doesn't need to provide your passport or that of your children. So you don't need a passport to enter the lottery. You will need it later on if you're selected. Okay, for the kid too. Okay. Right, let's see if I can take one or two more questions. OC 200, winner 600 is de facto. When is the latest we can get married? All docs submitted and concerned if will not get a visa. I don't know what you mean by de facto at that point, but what I would say is this. In DV 2021 and DV 2020, we saw great impact from COVID. COVID hasn't disappeared, hasn't gone away. It could get worse, right? We don't know what's going to happen. So anything you do that delays your case is a bad idea, right? Because we may suddenly find at some point that things get locked down again. We don't know, right? So the earlier you can get married and add your new spouse to the case, the better. Change your wedding date. Go and get a legal marriage, right? Even if you've got a big sort of, wedding planned with lots of people, being there, you can do that, but you can get married earlier than that, right? You could be married quietly with just a couple of witnesses, a couple of months earlier, right? I would actually do that if I were you. If you want to gamble and you want to delay your process because you want to get married with a big fancy wedding and do it later, that's fine. That's up to you. But it could create risk. I don't know why you would do that, right? DQ but have a new baby, what to do? You have to, with a new baby, you have to contact KCC, unlock your DS-260, and you will be required to submit documents again for all of you, including the baby, right? So yes, it's going to delay your case because you're DQ, potentially. You'll have to be documentarily qualified again. But if you don't do that, you won't find it easy to add your baby later. So it's a stupid decision to try and say, oh, I don't want to be delayed. In your case, you have to do that. And it's better to do it sooner. So, go ahead and unlock your DS-260 and add your new baby. And congratulations on the new baby. You wish I was among that DV 2020 people that make it there and my interview was cancelled. You wish, not me wish. So your interview was cancelled in DV 2020? That sucks. So they cancelled a bunch of interviews in March, April, and May. A lot of those people got interviewed in September. But I guess, in your case, you didn't for whatever reason. That sucks. I'm sorry about that. You may have a chance to get one of the 9,095 visas. So fingers crossed for you there. Okay, let me find one more question. So truly, natural remedies do work. Idiotic question to be putting on my blog. Anyway, let me see. Let's find a real question here. 2022. Let me read this one. 2022 winner with case number AF5000 still didn't receive email for submission of documents from KCC. I've answered this to several people several times. Send your documents anyway. Okay. Let me answer another question. Because Fatumo, you need to send your documents. Just go ahead and do that. Right? There's no reason not to. Okay, let me find another question. So you asked for a new date for your appointment because you didn't have your medical test for the date scheduled. Do you think I'm a lost case? Yeah, you probably screwed up your case. What would have been better? I don't know the precise details, but it's best to appear for your interview and follow up with your medical rather than cancel your interview and then get your medical. There's usually a way of making that happen, particularly, at the end of the year. And unfortunately, if you didn't do that, you may have screwed up your case. Were you a plaintiff? Maybe you can save your case that way. But otherwise, no, I'm afraid you ruined your case there. Okay, but I got to find one more interesting question. I'm just sort of scanning through. Okay, let's answer this one. After all the troubles, do you think the lottery program has become a burden for the US government? What's your expectations for the future of this program? That's a good question to end on. Is it a burden? No, it's not a burden. Firstly, the program itself is self-funding. You pay a fee of $330 when you're doing an interview. That fee pays for the administration of the program. And so the program itself doesn't cost the government money. That was part of the original legislation that controls the program. About the program itself, it's intended to promote diversity. It's to promote underrepresented countries, so that we don't just get a country full of a country full of British people, or a country full of Indian people or Chinese people. And so the countries that are already well represented, like those countries I just mentioned, and Nigeria and Bangladesh and some of those other countries that are excluded from the program, those countries are taken care of through other types of immigration. And in a normal year, there's about 1 million immigrants a year come to America, 1 million to 1.2 million. Of that number, about 50,000, so only 5% are supposed to come through the DV program. It's a very small percentage of the overall immigration budget, right? So it doesn't cost money. It's a small amount of the overall number of immigrants, and it promotes diversity, which is a good thing. I don't think that's a burden to the government. That's not a burden. Now, Trump wanted to kill the program because he's a moron, not for any other reason. He didn't understand the program. He thought that people were just drawn from a hat and handed a green card. You all know that's not true. That's not how it works. You go through background checks. You have to meet certain requirements. It's not like an instant thing. It takes time. And so this program is a good program. And the people that come on this program have an education level at least as good and probably higher than that of Americans. And so we raise the intelligence level of the country. Immigrants are motivated to work hard and achieve great things. So we raise the potential of the country. Immigration is a good thing for this country. So I've spent 8 years trying to help diversity lottery winners because I know it's a good thing, right? There's no question of that. So it's not a burden on the country. So I don't think, Biden is looking to increase the numbers, not decrease. Trump wanted to kill the program for sure. And if a Republican gets in the future, they may try and kill the program. But otherwise, no, I don't think the program is going to stop. I hope not, anyway. All right, I'll end it there. It's been a long session today, so I hope that was interesting and useful to some of you. People can enter the new DV lottery tomorrow. It will open tomorrow. It will immediately crash. Just wait for a couple of days. Don't panic. It doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. Okay, but be prepared for your entry tomorrow. I have put in the YouTube description a link to a video that gives a full sort of guide on how to enter, right? The photo requirements, how you fill out the form, the whole thing. It's all in there, right? Well worth looking at to avoid mistakes if you plan to enter the lottery tomorrow. Okay. All right, everyone. Good luck. Bye-bye now. Keep well.